Hello and welcome to this new development update video. The FLIP Fluids Addon became 6 years old this year and many things happened in the past year. The animation you can see in the background is not just a background animation. What you can see here are the first outputs of the FLIP Fluids Addon version 2.0. In our previous development video we mentioned that we are working on a new project. And yes, it will be a new version of our add-on. But more about this in the end of this video. Let me start with a few numbers. With more than 12,000 sales, our FLIP Fluids Addon keeps being your favorite fluid engine for Blender. This fact makes it possible to continue developing this tool as full-time job, and we are so happy about this. Thank you very much for supporting us. Thank you also for that many bug reports. We were able to fix more than 70 bugs in the past year to make the add-on more stable and give you a better experience when working with it. Finding bugs and reporting them is very important for us, so please continue with reporting and use our support form, email us or report on the GitHub page. Our FLIP Fluids YouTube channel grew to more than 5,000 subscribers. That's fantastic! And if you are not one of those, please subscribe our channel now to be sure to don't miss any news in the future. While we still are developing new tools for the helper add-on and producing tutorials, we have also started with a quick tips series. It's a good idea to have it as addition to our complete series what explains features in depth. Our first quick tip video is about motion blur. It explains how to add motion blur and shows also a new helper operator for removing motion blur. A Discord server was something many people were asking for, so everybody is invited to join the community. You will find a link in the description of this video or on our homepage. Our homepage got a complete new design, and to make some things more comfortable for visitors, we added new forms. There's now a support form that makes it easier to help with your request. And there is a customer reel submission form that can be used to become a participant. By the way, meanwhile, we have received 19 great animations for the customer reel 2022 to 2023. It will be the last reel of this type, because in the next year we will start with something different. Okay, and now it's time to take a look into Blender and the add-on. Let me begin with this. Yes, alert sound. It was a requested feature to have this alert sound as soon as baking finished. You can enable this in the add-on's preferences. Something you will also find here is the folder for assets. Because we have removed the old preset system, we created all preset scenes to be accessible as assets. Included are all the presets you know from the past and some new stuff. Tabbed domain settings is new too. Once enabled, you will find all domain settings in a much more comfortable arrangement. Look at this. Complex geometry was another task in our list, because whenever you wanted to work with more than the default cube, I mean really complex models, it was challenging to get this working as an object for the fluid simulation. A tutorial is linked above. That brings me to a quick preview into something what we actually working on. It's this ship animation. It is a very complex object with many single sub-objects, but thanks to our prepared geometry operators it is simple to work with it. We are in the mid of developing processes of some features that will help to produce animations like this. One new feature that is required for this workflow is to remove collisions from the domain's boundaries. This has already been finished and can be found here in the domain settings. Okay, before I go deeper into other new settings for the simulator itself, let me show you more great helper add-on features that will improve your workflow. You can now set the output name for your rendered files with many less clicks than before using the operator. And when you are going to simulate and render your animation with different settings, you can easily increase or decrease the version number for your cache folder and the render output folder at the same time using these operators. And while making your simulation is working CMD based, you can enable the add-on to automatically load the last finish frame, like you know it from regular baking. CMD Tools has been extended by a new CMD-based Alembic exporter. Some of our customers are using Alembic more often, and this new CMD operator let you export your animation with much less to zero Blender crashes. Another very useful tool is the speed measuring tool. It takes a look to your moving object and let you know how fast it is for the simulation. This is not only calculated by the speed of your moving object, but also on your world scaling settings. Very helpful for your scene setup. And in our helper add-on is now a function to disable the complete add-on temporarily. This can be used if you are working on scenes with a large number of objects. Parts of our domain management script require searching through all objects, what can slow down your scene. A quick disable function will be helpful in such a case. That were all new things we have added to the helper add-on in the past year. And now let me tell you more about the additions in the FLIP Fluid add-on itself. Take a look at this. What you see here are rendered fluid particles. That means all that simulated particles that are meshed to your fluid surface can now be rendered without meshing, or if you like, with meshing in combination. This enables you to create fantastic animations in a new, unique style. And of course, all available attributes can be used too. Sit back and enjoy some beautiful animations from the development team. Wow, that's absolutely incredible! By the way, this also works with another new feature that has been added in the last year: variable viscosity. You are now able to set different viscosity settings for multiple fluid objects, and you can tell the simulator which viscosity has which priority in the simulation. For simulations like this, where fluid is not required to be visible all the time, we have added a function to remove particles after a specific time. There's a new obstacle velocity scaling field that helps to create stronger effects for obstacle to fluid collisions. Whenever the fluid needs to be thrown a little more through the air, this is the right place to make the whole thing more powerful. Powerful is also a new attribute that found its way to our simulation engine. It's the whitewater proximity attribute. This can be used to color the fluid surface in places where white water particles are nearby. So for example, if there is foam on the water surface, then the water surface itself can now be colored accordingly. Of course, only in the appropriate places. And of course it also works with bubbles and spray. Right now, gas particles are combined into the FLIP bubble proximity attribute. I think that such grandiose effects are even more impactful in slow motion, because we weren't comfortable enough with having to set up the speeds separately for each simulation engine when combining different simulations, such as rigid bodies and FLIP fluids, we created a place where speeds can be set centrally. But what if your scene contains a lot of objects, where Export Animated Mesh is required to be enabled on all objects? While you previously had to select each object individually in order to activate Export Animated Mesh, there's now a new overview in the corresponding domain settings area. This makes it much more convenient to work with a large number of objects for which Export Animated Mesh must be activated. Just two more things I would like to show you before I start to talk about our highlights in this year's development video. We now have an improved simulation statistics panel. Here you will find all the simulation information as well as the new average performance score. The higher this value is, the better your system performed. And we can use this value, for example, for benchmarks. Okay, now I've tortured you long enough. Let's talk about the software project that we hinted at the previous development video. As we mentioned in the last development video, we had been working on a new project to expand the simulation and visual effects capabilities of Blender. We have now been developing this project for a bit over 2 years, and we want to share more details with you about this project. Beginning in May 2021, we had started a complete rewrite and redesign of both the Liquid Simulation Engine and FLIP Fluids Addon. This project will be released as a free update to the FLIP Fluids Addon, and we are currently naming this project FLIP Fluids 2.0. This is an ongoing project, and there are still a lot of unknowns to us for what some aspect of this project will become. We will only be updating you with details on our solid plans for this project. We won't be speaking on features that are currently in an experimental stage or features that may not end up working out in the end, in order to avoid disappointment if we are unable to reach those goals. You may have some questions about this project, and we have seen a few from you since our last development video. We are now ready to share with you some more quick details about FLIP Fluids 2.0. How is the development of FLIP Fluids 2.0 progressing? Development of FLIP Fluids 2.0 has been slow but steady. Over the last year we have been portioning a large amount of development time towards the FLIP Fluids 2.0 project versus the FLIP Fluids Addon in order to accelerate development. This has meant that the current FLIP Fluids Addon has received less development attention in large new features. But we are still continuing to maintain, update, fix bugs and add smaller improvements in each version release. There's still a long way to go in development before the FLIP Fluids 2.0 project will be ready for launch, and we do not have set a timeline at this moment. Keep in mind that we had also spent a few years on development and testing of the current FLIP Fluids add-on before the product was able to meet our high standard of quality. We will let you know when we are more certain of a date for a beta release or a full launch of the FLIP Fluids 2.0 project. Why rewrite the FLIP Fluids add-on and simulator? There are a few reasons why the simulator and add-on are undergoing a rewrite instead of modifying the current FLIP Fluids add-on. When we first created the FLIP Fluids add-on, we had never expected the add-on to grow as large or as popular as it is today in the Blender community. We have learned a lot about simulation and Blender add-on development since the initial release over the last years. Some design decisions made early on and some developments of Blender that we did not expect have resulted in deep design issues, within the add-on that have impacted our development in a negative way. These design issues have limited our ability to progress on some of the most requested features and improvements, especially in improving performance. Our long-term goals for the FLIP Fluids add-on have outgrown the current engine, and a rewrite is the best path for us towards meeting these goals. One of the largest design changes for the FLIP Fluids 2.0 project will be that the simulation engine will run outside of Blender, rather than directly inside of Blender's Python environment. This gives us more control over how we can ensure stability while the simulation is running, allows us to work around limitations of running the simulator directly within Blender, and allows us to further improve performance. Moving the engine outside of Blender is just a technical detail. The integration with the add-on will still feel the same to the artist. The only difference that you will see is that running a simulation will start a separate application that runs in the background. FLIP Fluids 2.0 will continue to be an open source project. Moving the simulation engine outside of Blender technically allows for closing the source code of the engine, but we have zero interest in doing this. We are committed to open source development, and we will continue to distribute the source code under open source licenses such as the GPL and MIT licenses. After FLIP Fluids 2.0 is launched, we do plan to extend the engine to handle other types of simulations outside of liquid simulation. A large part of the design of the new simulation engine is to allow for us to more easily extend the code base to handle other types of simulations in future development. We are not certain which types of simulations we will start on first, but any simulations outside of liquids will be released as a separate product in order to fund development. We are experimenting with speeding up some computations using the GPU, but GPU acceleration will not be a major feature of the FLIP Fluids 2.0 engine. A real-time simulator that runs fully on the GPU is not something that is realistic for us to develop at the moment. For the initial release, GPU acceleration features may be limited to NVIDIA hardware. Our primary goals for the FLIP Fluids 2.0 engine are to greatly improve performance and to remove design limitations that have prevented us from developing some of the most requested features and improvements. Here are some quick notes on some of the more important features that we are designing into the engine. Sparse and adaptive domain simulation to improve performance and reduce resource usage, allowing for much larger simulation effects. Ability to animate the domain position and dimensions to reduce the amount of simulated liquid in the effects that require moving over large distances. Improvements on domain boundary conditions, for example, setting domain walls with inflow or outflow speeds, setting a water level to maintain, generating ocean waves, and more. Decoupled baking workflow to optionally separate the baking and rebaking of different simulation components. Fluid particle simulation, mesh generation, whitewater generation, and other simulation processes. Updated whitewater simulator. Blender has massively improved the efficiency of particle rendering in both speed and resource usage. Being able to generate and render more particles allows us to make some nice improvements in realism for how whitewater can be generated. Support for multiple simulation domains within a blend file. Possible particle system support. Depending on the development of simulation nodes or Blender's plans for a new particle system, we may be able to add support for particle systems as input into the simulator. These are just a few, and there will be many more changes, improvements, workflow features and surprises for FLIP Fluids 2.0. Alright, thank you for taking time to listen about what we have been working on. The Blender community has been so friendly and supportive during the development of the FLIP Fluids Addon project, and it has been a real pleasure to develop this tool for the community. We are looking forward to the day we can launch the FLIP Fluids 2.0 project and are so excited to see all the animations and effects you can create then. We are certain that the wait will be worth it. Well, that's all up to this point. I would like to thank you all again on behalf of the entire FLIP Fluids Addon development team. Together we are such a great community, and everything you do, all your contributions, your animations, your feedback, just the whole package is incredibly valuable and motivating for us. You inspire us with new ideas. So thank you very much to you all. This brings me to the end of this video. I'm looking forward to the exciting future. Thank you for watching and goodbye.